Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you are all doing well on this hump day, middle of the week. Hopefully we can coast into that nice little weekend coming up. All right, let's get right into it. All right, so let's just take a look at this article. This is coming to us from CBR.com, and this is Galadriel was Lord of the Rings' most powerful elf, but her cousin made Sauron look silly. And this is coming to us from Blake Hawkins. Now, I'm going to give Blake the benefit of the doubt and let's read the article first. We know from the first video I did today, according to Blake, Sauron being evil is all because Guy Ladriel threw a wrench in his redemption plans. So let's see what Blake has to say about Galadriel now. Lord of the Rings Galadriel was super powerful, but Luthien was even more impressive. She fought against Sauron in a battle of magic, and she handily won. Okay, can't argue with that. Galadriel was a huge reason that Sauron didn't take over in the Lord of the Rings Third Age. Along with Elrond and the book-only character Glorfindel, she was easily one of the oldest and most powerful elves in Middle-earth. As an elf, she had intrinsic power, but as a Calaquendi, she had seen the light of the trees of Valinor and carried that additional power with her. On top of that, Galadriel wielded Nenya, the Ring of Adamant. Between Galadriel's inherent power as an elf, her experience in standing up to darkness, and her Ring of Power, she was a force to be reckoned with. In fact, no one ever breached Lothlorien's defenses. 3 times during the War of the Ring, orcs attacked the Elven Kingdom, and all 3 times they were repelled. That proves the valor of the Elven warriors, but most of the credit goes to Galadriel's magic. Though Galadriel repelled Sauron's forces, her cousin Luthien went toe-to-toe with the Dark Lord during the First Age, and utterly humiliated him. Like Galadriel, Luthien was known for her beauty. She was the fairest of all the children of Ilúvatar, and Aragorn sang about her in the Fellowship of the Ring. Luthien was the daughter of King Ilu Thingol and Queen Melian, who was one of the Maiar. She lived in the realm of Doriath for thousands of years until she met a man from the house of Beor. His name was Beren, and they loved each other deeply. The tale of their tragic love is told in the Lay of Lúthien, which was told for thousands of years after they lived. The lay tells how Beren and Luthien wanted to wed, but Luthien's father didn't want her with a mortal man. So Thingol set a bride price that he deemed impossible, a Silmaril from the crown of Morgoth. However, the pair of lovers wouldn't be denied, so Beren set out to fulfill Thingol's unrealistic demand. Beren obtained the help of Finrod Felagund, and they traveled towards Angband in magical orc disguises. Yet they were captured along the way by Sauron at Tal in Garath, the Isle of Werewolves, which also happened to initially be the original Minas Tirith. Finrod strove against Sauron, and I should preface that in name only, right? Not as the capital city of Gondor. It was the original Minas Tirith in name only. Finrod strove against Sauron in Songs of Power, but the Dark Lord prevailed and threw Finrod, Beren, and their companions in a dungeon. Because he couldn't learn their identities, Sauron sent a werewolf to devour them one by one. When only Beren and Finrod were left, Finrod put forth his strength, slew the werewolf, and saved Beren's life. Luthien stayed in Doriath when the quest began, but she could feel it when Sauron captured her lover. So, escaping the guards, she went to his rescue. Along the way, she met Huan, the Hound of Valinor, and escaped the greedy sons of Feanor with the Hound's help. When they arrived at Tal in Garath, there was a battle to be made. Sauron sent wolves and Draulwin, Sauron sent wolves and Draulwin, the father of werewolves, to kill them, but Huan proved their better. When the minions failed, Sauron sallied forth as a massive werewolf, hoping to personally capture Luthien for Morgoth. But he utterly failed. She put a spell of weariness on him, and Juan pinned him by the throat. Forced to yield, Sauron gave up possession of the tower and fled in the form of a vampire. Sauron was humiliated by his defeat and spent the rest of the First Age hiding from Morgoth. After escaping from Sauron, Beren and Luthien continued the quest for the Silmaril and eventually obtained the jewel. It would subsequently cause much death and destruction and even claim the lives of Beren and Luthien, though the Valar allowed them to return to Middle-earth and live one mortal lifetime together. All right. Okay, I'm not going to rip into Blake on this one because it's a sort of a very abridged telling of the tale, but the key points are all correct. The key points are all correct. I'm a little bit confused as to the comparing Galadriel to Luthien. I don't get that. It's a completely different situation. Because one big thing, at least that I would think is a big thing, that Blake is sort of skipping over, is that while yes, Galadriel does have all those things going for her, Nenya and all that stuff, and she's one of the Calaquendi and so on and so forth, and she's seen the light of the trees, and she does have all of that going for her, right? But at the end of the day, she's an elf. Whereas Luthien was elvish and half Maiar. So I mean, let that sink in for a second. So Galadriel, yes, powerful elf, no questioning that, right? No doubting that. But you're comparing an elf, albeit a powerful one of the most powerful ones, right? But nonetheless, an elf, to somebody who is the offspring of an elf like Galadriel and a lesser angelic being, right? So, if you have Eru, who's the god figure, and you have the Ainur / Valar, who are sort of, I would equate them, and this is me using my standard, I would equate them almost to being like the archangel levels of power. If you're comparing them to modern, like to Catholicism, like archangels, right? Like how you have Gabriel, Michael, so on and so forth. Well, you would have Manwe, Yavanna, that sort of thing, right? And then you would have sort of your lesser angels, right? Your lesser tier angels, which, would be sort of the cherubim or cherubim, like Cupid, right? Cupid happens to be a named lesser angel, right? Because he's a cherub. And to me, that's what the Maiar were always like. Whereas you had the archangels, like Gabriel and Michael, but then you had the lesser angels, the cherubs. I always, in my mind, it's the Valar / Ainur are like the archangels, and the Maiar are like the cherubs, right? And that's sort of keeping it condensed. Yes, I know there are different types of angels and stuff like that. I am surprisingly well read, despite how I may come across sometimes. So that's how so Luthien is half elf, meaning her elvish half at least has some of the same powers conveyed to her through her father, right, who's elvish, that Galadriel would get. But then she's also getting sort of demigod like status, because her mother's Melian, who's a Maiar. So I mean, I find it hard to compare the two. Like, you're talking about one of the most powerful elves versus somebody who's half elf, half angelic, half demigod. It just seems like it's a stretch to try and say, oh well, that the chick whose mom was like this like angel figure, like she was really powerful. Like Galadriel's good, but this other chick, whoo, she was so much stronger. Yeah, because her mom was a Maiar. So it would just make common sense if you know Tolkien and you understand these things. You could see like comparing them is kind of goofy, but I digress. Overall, like, yeah, sure. I guess, there's really not much to say other than like the comparison seems kind of odd to me. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, but hey, that's just my opinion. Yeah, I'm not going to go on anymore about it because, like I said, in Blake's credit, because some of the articles I've been reading lately from Blake, I'm kind of like, really? But in this one, it's definitely the abridged Beren and Luthien, or the majority of the Beren and Luthien tale. Definitely abridged, but it gets the important parts right. It hits the high parts, and it, for all intents and purposes, gives an accurate reading of the overall story. Leaves out a lot of detail that's important, but again, that's just me being nitpicky, so I'm not going to go there. But I still think that comparing Galadriel to Luthien doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense because you're not factoring in Luthien's heritage, which completely changes the game. Right? Completely changes the game. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that you can realistically compare Luthien and her powers versus Galadriel and her powers in, because apparently they were saying, well, Luthien was able to really humiliate Sauron, and Galadriel, she kind of never really did that, and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, but Luthien's mom was kind of like the equivalent of Sauron. Because remember, Sauron's a Maiar too, right? Sauron's not a Valar. He's not one of the Ainur. Okay, he's a Maiar. So Sauron is literally no stronger than Gandalf or Saruman, technically speaking, just from a strictly technical level, right? Because they're all Maiar. So Melian was also a Maiar. So Luthien's mother was on par power-wise with Sauron. So is it surprising that she, being half that and half elvish, she would have it within her to defeat Sauron in a sort of one-on-one magic off? It's not surprising. So the need to point that out as a sort of like thing, I don't understand. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Yeah, just let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Remember, if you like the video, like the video. If you feel like sharing the video, by all means do so. It helps us with the algorithm and it helps the channel get seen. If you have not subscribed yet, I would hope that you would consider subscribing. It would help us build the army of beautiful badasses as we draw a line in the sand and we do not give any ground and we protect the professor and his works. And if you are a returning subscriber, again, as always, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys make it all worthwhile. And that's why I do this shit, because it's fun and I enjoy seeing your feedback and we always have a good time. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode. We are doing the live stream on Saturday. Don't know the topics just yet. Excuse me. Don't know the topics just yet, but we are doing a live stream on Saturday. So that'll be Saturday, 6 p.m. Be there. And that's going to do it for this video. Remember, as always, be good, be safe, be awesome, but more importantly, stay more dorkish. Peace.